Hi everyone, welcome to day 15 of the journey with the Celtic Saints, and I'm back able to be in the prayer garden. The fly swarm seems to have moved on, and also the flying ants seem to have moved on as well. And it's a beautiful day, so some things are good. And today we remember somebody called the Venerable Bede, or otherwise known as St Bede. He lived up just above Newcastle on the Tyne and Wear at Jarrow, and he was a monk in a monastery there, and he entered the monastery at an incredible young age of 7, and was made into a deacon at 19, and then eventually into a priest at 30. And Bede's fame really comes from the fact that he was asked to write a early history of the English nation, particularly the church, but also of the wider nation and people. And it's the oldest book we have in our modern era in history, for the history of England. So he's known as the father of English history. That's an incredible title, mainly looking at the period between about 500 and 700 AD. And it's the AD also that we've got Bede to thank for, because he, along with some others, was the first person to really put forward that we should date all our history based on the birth of Christ. And so this spread throughout most of Europe, and indeed throughout then the known world. So the fact that we often put AD at the end of when we date various documents, both in history and as well as in the life of the church, that's partly down to Bede. Such was his influence, and such was the power of his early history, that it's been copied into something like 45 different languages, and it's sort of like a benchmark for about other documents that are found from that era. So that's what we've got to thank Bede for. But more than that, he was someone who sought to build a bridge between the Roman Church, of which he was part, and the Celtic Church that he knew so well in the Northumbria part of the world. And so Bede was someone who reached out across a divide. And of course today is a day when Northern Ireland particularly, but also the rest of the world, I think, mourns the life and witness of a gentleman called John Hume. John Hume was somebody who was brought up in Northern Ireland, trained to be a Catholic priest, but decided instead to become a politician, but was a great advocate of something about peace and talking rather than violence, at a time where the history of Northern Ireland was particularly violent. And he encouraged talks between himself and the IRA, and this was frowned on hugely at the time by Protestants, both in Northern Ireland and in London. But if it hadn't been for those talks trying to persuade the IRA to create a ceasefire, then we would never have had the Good Friday Agreement. And often these people who make the big changes in the world are people who have to risk everything and offer their hand, not just to their friends, but also their hand of friendship to those who they may disagree with. He was very outspoken about the need to overcome violence, and it was because of him we have the Good Friday peace process. In some quarters he's actually even been called the Irish version of Nelson Mandela. So we remember John Hume today, we remember the Venerable Bede, we remember the need to offer the hand of friendship across divides which so easily can make us into tribes. But we also remember that we have a legacy, and we'll each have a legacy that we leave behind in our lives, which other people may or not one day remember, but certainly God does. And that's perhaps the sobering thing that we take from today, is that history does indeed record what contribution we've made to this world. Most of us will not make the huge contributions that either Bede or John Hume will have made, but we can each make a difference in our communities and in our own lives. We'll each make choices, either to hold back or to be open, vulnerable, take the risk of being misunderstood, and pray and hope that we're following Christ in enabling the change that will help heal the world. And for that we give thanks for all historians who even today write such amazing accounts of events both of today and of yesterday, because they help us to learn how we want to also become tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day. Maybe remember John Hume particularly today, but also the Venerable Bede and all historians and history teachers everywhere. God bless everyone. Bye, have a good rest of the day. Speak to you soon.